Greetings to you, and I want to welcome you to my table. And I don't know if it's confession or just truth be told, when I bought these glasses that have progressive lenses that help me not have to change lenses from sunlight to into the house, I thought they would be glorious. I didn't really think about being on camera or doing things outdoors and then you not being able to see my eyes. And so oftentimes I'll switch glasses, and today those glasses aren't with me. So know that you're going to have to look through my gray lenses today, and I apologize for that. However, I am glad that you have chosen to join me at my table this week. Our worship series has been delight for me. I love the metaphor of table. I love the idea that we come around table and we share our hearts with one another, that we share our questions with one another, that we share our lives with one another in both joy and celebration, in new babies and marriages, and job excitements and kid excitements, and the gloriousness of bird song and blooming mountain laurel. We come to celebrate our lives with one another, while at the same time we hold one another's lives in support and prayer when grief happens, when lament happens, when frustration happens. We share our lives around table, and so I hope that you are finding ways to join someone at their table, maybe even knowing that this is God's table. It's not yours, it's not mine. Maybe it's literally to bring your journal, to bring a book, or to sit literally and just be in God's creation, experiencing all that there is here offered to you. I'm going to give you a heads up. I've got my Peace and Love t-shirt on. This last week, the worship experience was Come to the Table of Love, where I asked us, what are we not ashamed of? In the first part of Paul's gospel to the Romans, the phrase is, I'm not ashamed of the gospel. And I think sometimes we've kept that too narrow of understanding what gospel is. And for me, good news is good news. And what is good news for you about life and freedom and hope and joy? And how do we literally share that with one another because we are not ashamed of it? And that's the question I really wanted us to explore this last week. This coming week on the 13th of June, our question will be, how do we come to the table of peace? Peace and justice. And what do we find when we show up at that table? So join us for worship live on our lawn at 11. Bring your chair and let us explore and experience possibly what coming to the table of peace and justice might look and sound like. The following week on the 20th will be the table of abundance. The week after that on the 27th will be the table of grace. And then we'll conclude this worship series on the 4th, July 4th, with Come to the Table of Freedom and Joy. As we truly understand this notion of freedom and the joy found in it, sometimes there is challenge there to get to that. And our goal will be to understand the depth of freedom that literally opens our hearts in birdsong of joy. In addition to our live worship at 11, know that still on YouTube and on Facebook, we are premiering a video each week. Know that this video will begin to transition us into live streaming worship sometime in July or August. And so what you're going to start seeing on our YouTube channel and in our Facebook posts will be portions of recorded live worship from our lawn. So we'll take portions of that recording that we're making on Sundays. We'll edit that a bit to put onto our YouTube channel and our Facebook page. And so you'll get to experience some of what our live worship is like as we transition into moving back into our building sometime in July as the weather heats up. I put that in quotes because here in the high country, we start complaining about at 80 degrees and above. And for those of us that have grown up in southern climes, that 80 is cool. Well, it's kind of interesting to understand what hot is. And so as it gets hot here in the high country in July, we will look at moving indoors for our live worship on Sundays. And as we transition our worship this summer. Our small group offerings are also transitioning in a way. Terry Clevenger's group, Grateful, had their last meeting this week, official meeting about the word grateful and understanding gratitude. And I know that we will continue to grapple with that. Absolutely weekly in informal ways, and as we gather around tables and we continue to ask ourselves, so how do we understand being grateful, specifically maybe as a form of resistance when the world wants to oppress us and to call us to being cynical or to complaining often. Where do we understand God's grace and joy within the moments of our lives? On Sundays at 9:15, Renee has been offering My Grandmother's Hands, looking at racialized trauma and healing that must or has the potential to happen there. Know that she's going to move that to 9 a.m. She has moved that conversation to 9, so that those who want to make the choice to come to live worship can still do the online Zoom conversation and then still show up for live worship at 11, and you should have plenty of time to do that. In my mind, this is not how it was presented, but the council approved and accepted a ministry proposal this week by some of our leadership to adopt a landscaping bed on our property. We have magnificent property, and it is just glorious. If you haven't driven up our driveway to see the purple iris or the new plantings that Sharon has planted or the things that normally just bloom and blossom, I encourage you to drive up onto our property. And it is too much for one or two people. So we are inviting you, challenging you, offering you an opportunity to come and to dig in the dirt. And maybe this could be a great opportunity for you to create community. Invite one or two others to join you and to adopt a landscaping bed, to weed it, to mulch it, to maybe add annuals to it. And then if you want to rearrange it or redesign it, we're going to ask that you do that in community. And we need some help with our landscaping beds. And so we're asking you to maybe this summer to take on one of those. Another small group opportunity, as I see it, in the month of July, our national body, the UCC, will host General Synod, which is a meeting of our national body. General Synod speaks to the church. It does not speak for the church, which is a difference in our polity, as opposed to some other denominations and faith traditions. And so for me, the really interesting and cool and liberating and nourishing piece of General Synod is to hear what else is going on as General Synod offers us a word from God, the still speaking God. And I'm going to encourage you to maybe find one or two other people and pop in on General Synod. The registration cost is amazingly small. You don't have to travel to go to General Synod. Sometimes just to attend General Synod, it's a couple of $100, and then you have to pay for travel and hotel and all the things to get to Minneapolis, Minnesota, or to Kansas City, Missouri, or wherever it's being hosted. And this year, it's a one-time fee of $100, and you can have access to 50 workshops and worship experiences and a host of other resources. So maybe get one or two or three people. You all get a registration together and watch it together. And may that be a small group opportunity for you. Officially, it's in July, but when you register, you're going to have access to the workshops and to worship experiences literally for the next year. So that's General Synod in July. One other thing I really want to highlight this week is an opportunity to help our own local summer camps. Through WAMI, which stands for Watauga, Avery, Mitchell, and Yancey counties, our county programming for summer camps for kids who need something to do and they don't maybe have the resources to go off to other 4-H camps or sports camps or other camps that are all going on in the summer. We've been in partnership with both Bobby Willard's camp, which is in Avery County, which is a piece of the 4-H program, as well as Emily Greer, who, that's not her name now, but she runs the local Watauga summer camp program that is at Cove Creek School. And we have typically in the last 3 or 4 years given away money to agencies and to social justice avenues that really could use some extra cash. And I want to invite you to help us provide for these 2 camps. We're pledging $800 to each one of these camps to help with scholarships, particularly for kids who need to come to camp and don't have other things to do in the day. I know that many of you understand how daunting and challenging it has been for parents during the pandemic as kids have had to stay at home. Well, the good news is that camps are opening back up, and they are allowed to now have live kids, students come again to these camps, and both the kids need to get out and be social, and the parents need the kids to get out and be social, and scholarship money is needed. And so I'm going to invite you, implore you, challenge you to help us come up with a great offering for scholarships for both the Watauga and the Avery camp, because we have connections to both of those. And lastly, but certainly not least, on this weekly news, you know, life has a certain way of spinning sometimes. And in our spinning, at different times, things just get lost in the shuffle. Somehow, this year, I think it's because we're doing listening circles and we're working relational covenant, and then we had a special congregational meeting around renting our annex, which, by the way, is going splendidly well. Brandon, our tenant, is liking living in our space, and the beginning income from that is starting to percolate in. And in the midst of this, somehow we overlooked in our bylaws that we're supposed to have a congregational meeting in the month of May. Well, that did not happen. And so know that we are going to have a congregational meeting in the month of August. Typically that May meeting is informational, and hope, and we've really tried to step up our game around information and keeping you informed. And so we amazingly apologize for not making a congregational meeting happen. And hopefully you have still been informed of what all is going on. And I trust that you will let us know when we've missed something. So know that we will have a congregational meeting in the month of August, hopefully with a relational covenant, and to roll that out and to bring your attention to where we're going next within our own understanding of being church here in the High Country. So that's the news for this week, and I look forward to seeing you live on our lawn at 11 on Sundays, or right here on another video at another table next week. Until then, peace be with you.